You're watching the free version of Silhouette Essentials. For projects and footage, head to BorisFX.com for the premium download.
Let's do a couple more shapes before we look at my final project. And for these shapes, I will incorporate tracking. First, I'm going to lock the layer that we've already worked on. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click this little lock button to lock it. And while we're in the object list, we'll just mouse over these tooltips here. This is for opacity for our shape. These are our blending options here. And we have the invert and we have our icon for motion blur. Here we can change the color of our shape. And here we just want to turn off the visibility. You can just click that and our shape is no longer visible. So let's take a look at the landscape. I can see here that it's occluded by our foreground subject. We have the screen left mountain here and we have the screen right mountain range over here. So it's a good idea to treat these as separate areas. And the camera is not a lock off as it's not stationary, so tracking is really going to help us. And in addition, let me just zoom in here on the screen left side, using the plus key, and we'll just pan over. I can see that while the screen left side looks pretty simple, the edge is defocused, which can be problematic if trying to roto it manually. There isn't a hard to find edge for line placement, so you might end up having a lot of variation and it won't be very consistent. So it's a great opportunity to use tracking. To access the tracker panel, I'll select the roto node. And I can either click on this icon on the left toolbar, which is the tracker icon, or click Shift-T for the hotkey. And down below you see we have the different options for tracking. We have the point tracker, Silhouette's planar tracker, and the Mocha tracker, but we're going to use a point tracker here. So I'm going to scrub through the shot. I'm going to look for something that I want to track. I'm just going to try one point. I'm going to keep this simple. And even though it's defocused, I think I can still select something that the point tracker will work well with. So I'm going to select this area here, this little round defocused dot. I can turn on the magnifier to help place my point. Click that, and now you can see I have my indicator down here on the lower right. To insert a point tracker, I'm going to hover over where I want to insert it, click the Alt key, Alt option, and place my little point tracker there. I'm going to zoom in, the plus key, and I'm going to make my target area around the dot and then my search area a little bit bigger. The search area is the area that allows for how much movement is for frame to frame. And I think that it doesn't move a whole lot, but you want to make sure that you're giving it enough space between each frame. And I'm going to leave this behavior to start frame. You can also do every frame or keyframes, but we'll just use start frame, the default. I'm going to zoom out and we will track backwards. And then we'll go back to our first keyframe and we will track forwards. And now you can see I have a tracker inside my roto object list. To use this tracker, you have to create a layer. And how you do that is you make sure you're selected on your tracker here. So we click the apply button and up comes the box where you can create your layer. Since we just have one point, we only have these options. If you had multiple points, you have more options. Click OK, and now you can see a layer is created. And I'm going to call this screen left mountain. If I go to the timeline, you can see that my layer has the transform data inside of it. So I don't need to look at my tracker anymore. I can just disable that so it's not visible. So now that we have our tracker done, we can make our shape. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to disable my magnifier. I'm going to go back to the reshape mode, which will disable the tracking overlays. And I'm going to look for the frame where the landscape is largest, where most of it is in view. So it looks like the first frame I see as much as possible of the screen left side. I'll just scrub through and see if I find another frame that would be better. And I'm going to make my shape on the frame that has the most of the mountain visible. We'll zoom in here. I'm going to switch to my pen. And we'll make our shape. I'm going to click B for B-spline. And I'll just put my points down. I can go and edit it later. I can zoom in and out and still keep the editing process alive. I can pan, and I can go off the edge of frame and up back to close my shape. Zoom in here and I see the circle on the first point, and my shape is now closed. I'm going to do some quick editing. So I'm not quite sure if my line placement is exact for where it needs to be for the compositing process. As long as you're consistent, then that is good too, because then the line can be either expanded or shrunk a little bit. But if it's evenly placed along the edge, then that will happen evenly in the post process. Okay, so let's see how this looks. You can see that my shape was made inside my layer. And let's take a look on how it plays. Okay, it looks pretty locked down. And another way that you can rotor your shape when you have tracking is to view it in the stabilize mode. And to do that, you want to go up here to the stabilize icon, and we're going to click on this layer. So we are in this roto session here. We're going to go to screen left mountain. And now we are centered in the stabilized view. So now it's easy to see any imperfections in the tracking. For easier viewing, I'm going to change the color of my spline, and you can do that by clicking on this color pot here. And I'm going to choose black, but you can also right click here and choose a color that way. And we can choose blue, whatever we want. And then we want to turn off the overlays. You can click 0 on the keyboard, and that will turn off the overlays. If I turn it off again, if you want to turn it back on, you can just click the viewer. So I'll deselect my shape, and we'll just look at the shape as it plays in the viewer. Okay, so that's pretty locked down. So we're done. Just one keyframe. And let's do the screen right side.